She cancelled her mother-in-law's credit card, which she found out was being used to shop with her husband's mistress. And her reaction was exactly what she expected. Karen Shepherd held the credit card statement in her trembling hands, but her rage was ice-cold and perfectly controlled. The numbers stared back at her like accusations. Bergdorf Goodman, Tiffany and Company, La Mer Spa, the Peninsula Hotel restaurant. Charges she didn't make, charges on the supplementary card she'd given her mother-in-law Emilia for emergencies. Except these weren't emergencies. These were dates, shopping trips, lunches at places Karen herself couldn't afford on her event planning salary. The final charge was what made Karen's blood turn to ice, a jewelry store receipt for matching bracelets. 2 of them, engraved. She didn't need to guess who wore the second one. Karen walked to her laptop with the mechanical precision of a woman who'd just discovered her life was a lie. She logged into Emilia's social media account. The password was still saved from when Karen had helped her set it up years ago. The photos were all there. Emilia and Thandiwe Watson at lunch, laughing. Emilia and Thandiwe at a boutique, holding shopping bags. Emilia playing grandmother to Thandiwe's children at the park, while Thandiwe gazed adoringly at someone off camera. Karen knew exactly who was behind that camera. Her husband, Laurence Olivier. Karen checked the date stamps. Every single shopping trip happened on days Laurence told her he was working late. Every lunch occurred during times he said he was in meetings. The coordination was surgical, deliberate, cruel. She picked up her phone. Her hands were steady now. Rage had burned away the shaking. First call, credit card company. I need to report fraudulent charges and cancel a supplementary card. Immediately. Her voice was ice. Ma'am, can you tell me? Someone has been using my card without authorization for months. Cancel it, now. Within minutes, Emilia's card was dead. Second call. The Carlisle restaurant. I need to speak to your manager. Right now. A pause. Then a man's voice. This is Gregory. How can I? My name is Karen Shepherd. My mother-in-law, Emilia Olivier, is dining at your restaurant tonight. She'll try to pay with a credit card ending in 4782. That card has been cancelled for fraudulent use. I'm the account holder. Ma'am, I'm not sure we can... Listen to me very carefully, Karen interrupted, her voice deadly calm. That woman has been using my money to wine and dine my husband's mistress for months. I want you to decline that card publicly, in front of everyone. I want her to feel exactly what she's done to me. Do you understand? Silence. Then, Yes, ma'am, I understand. Her companion's name is Thandiwe Watson. Make sure they both hear it. Make sure everyone in that restaurant hears it. She hung up before he could respond. Third call. Monica, I need you here. Now. Bring Brandon. Bring Mom. Bring anyone who can get here in an hour. Karen, what? His mother's been shopping with his mistress on my credit card. I have proof, and I'm about to burn his world down. I need witnesses. Oh my God. We're coming. Right now. Karen walked to the fireplace. She gathered Emilia's things with cold precision. The silk scarf, the designer handbag, the cashmere sweater. She arranged them like kindling, like a funeral pyre for trust. Her phone buzzed. Emilia, my card isn't working at dinner. Some mistake with the restaurant. Can you call them? Karen stared at the text, smiled, didn't respond. Another buzz. Karen, this is embarrassing. Thandiwe is here. Please fix this. Karen's fingers flew across the keyboard. The card isn't broken. I cancelled it. You've been shopping with my husband's whore on my dime. You want to play mother to the woman destroying my marriage? Pay for it yourself, with your own money, if you have any. Send block. 20 minutes later, her family burst through the door. Monica, Diane, Brandon, all of them with faces like thunder. Show me, Diane demanded. Karen handed her the statement. Watched her mother's face go from confusion to horror to fury. That bitch, Diane whispered. That ungrateful, backstabbing bitch. There's more. Karen pulled up the social media photos on her laptop. One by one, she clicked through them. Her family crowded around, their silence louder than screaming. She posted these? Monica's voice was shaking. She posted these? Publicly? She wanted people to see, Karen said flatly. She was proud. Brandon cursed under his breath. When does Lawrence get home? Soon. Good, Diane said, her voice hard as stone. I want to see his face when he realizes what he's done. They didn't have to wait long. A car door slammed, keys jangled, the front door opened. Karen struck a match. The flame caught on Emilia's scarf, hungry and bright. Smoke began to curl toward the ceiling. Lawrence walked in, saw the fire, saw the family, saw Karen's face. What the hell? Those are my mother's. Not anymore. Karen turned to face him. The firelight made her look like an avenging angel. Your mother chose Thandiwe over me. She's been shopping with your mistress, playing grandmother to her kids, using my money, so I'm burning her things. You can't just... I can. Karen's voice was terrifyingly calm. And I did. Lawrence saw the family then, all of them, staring at him like he was a stranger. You called them here? His voice rose. You ambushed me? I called them here as witnesses, Karen corrected, because you and your mother have been making me feel crazy for months. Well, I have proof now. She threw the statement at his feet, papers scattered like accusations, every receipt, every date, every lie. Lawrence's hands shook as he picked them up, his face drained of all color. Karen, I can... Explain? Diane stepped forward, her voice cutting. Explain how you've been parading your mistress around town with your mother's blessing. Explain how my daughter pays your mother's bills while that woman helps you destroy her. Mrs. Patterson, don't, Diane said. Don't you dare speak to me. You need to leave, Monica said, moving to Karen's side. This is my house, our house, Karen interrupted, and I'm giving you a choice, right now, one choice. She moved closer, close enough that he could smell the smoke, see the fire in her eyes. Pack a bag and leave, tonight. Go to your mother. Go to your whore. I don't care where you go. I'm not leaving, or you can stay, Karen continued, her voice dropping to a whisper, and face exactly what you've done. But if you stay, we do this my way. Complete transparency, complete honesty, and you cut off everyone who helped you betray me, starting with your mother. You can't ask me to choose. I'm not asking you to choose between us, Karen said. I'm asking you to choose between right and wrong. Your mother helped your mistress. She shopped with her. She embraced her. She chose her over me. Her voice broke. If you can't see how unforgivable that is, it's not that simple. It is that simple. Karen's control shattered. She bought jewelry for the woman you're fucking with my money. She posted photos like she was proud, like I didn't exist, like 12 years of me loving her meant nothing. The room fell silent, except for Karen's ragged breathing. Lawrence looked around, at Diane's disgust, at Monica's fury, at Brandon's disappointment, at the family surrounding Karen like a fortress. He opened his mouth, closed it, said nothing. There it is, Karen said softly. That silence. That's your answer. She walked to the closet, pulled out a suitcase, threw it at his feet hard enough that it bounced. 1 hour. Pack your things and get out. Karen, please. 59 minutes now. Her voice cracked like a whip. You can't do this. Watch me. She pulled out her phone. I already called my lawyer. This house is in my name. Mortgage paid from my account. You're a guest here, and your invitation just expired. She walked to the front door, threw it open. Cold air rushed in like freedom. 58 minutes. Start packing, or I call the police. Lawrence looked at his wife, really looked at her. The woman he'd married would have cried, begged, broken. This woman was made of steel and fire and holy rage. He picked up the suitcase, walked toward the bedroom like a man walking to his execution. Karen turned to her family, her armor cracked. Thank you for coming. We're not going anywhere, Monica said fiercely. I can't believe he didn't even try to defend you, Brandon muttered. He made his choice the minute he let his mother befriend that woman, Diane said. He chose then. This is just him finally admitting it. Exactly 1 hour later, Lawrence emerged with 2 bags. His eyes were red, his face was empty. "Where am I supposed to go?" Karen's smile could cut glass. "Your mother's house. She helped create this mess. Let her live in it with you. Let her explain to all her friends why her grown son is sleeping in her guest room like a failure." "I need to explain." "No," Karen said simply. "You needed to explain months ago, before you slept with her, before you let your mother befriend her, before you made me look like a fool. Now I don't want to hear a single word from you." Lawrence looked at her one last time, opened his mouth, closed it, left. The door closed. Karen walked to the window, watched his taillights disappear. Only then did her knees give out. Monica and Diane caught her, held her, became the pillars holding up her crumbling world. "He didn't even fight," Karen sobbed. "He didn't even try." "Because he knows he already lost," Diane whispered fiercely. "He lost you the second he betrayed you. He just didn't realize it until tonight. Why wasn't I enough?" "Baby, listen to me." Diane gripped Karen's face. "You were always enough. You were too much for him. Too good, too strong, too real. He couldn't handle a woman like you, so he ran to someone small and weak and easy." "I loved his mother," Karen whispered. "I called her Mom." "I know, sweetheart, I know. She chose a stranger over me." "Yes," Monica said, "and that tells you everything about her, nothing about you." Karen pulled herself together with visible effort, wiped her eyes, stood straight, looked at the door where her husband had just walked out of her life. "He's going to call his mother tonight," she said. "Probably," Diane agreed, "and she's going to come here tomorrow, expecting an apology, expecting me to back down. What are you going to do?" Karen's smile was cold and beautiful and terrible. "I'm going to show Emilia Clarke Olivier exactly what happens when you betray a woman who has nothing left to lose." The fireplace crackled behind her. Emilia's belongings reduced to ash, smoke and memories burning together. Chapter 2. The Mother Who Chose Wrong. Emilia Clarke. Olivier arrived at her son's home expecting an apology. Instead, she got a public execution. Karen had spent the entire morning preparing. Her house looked perfect, her makeup was flawless, her dress was elegant and professional. She looked like a woman in complete control, which was exactly the image she wanted to project when she destroyed her mother-in-law's world. Monica arrived first, followed by their mother Diane. Then came Karen's cousin Ashley, her aunt Barbara, and her childhood friend Jessica. Karen had assembled a jury of women, each one ready to witness the reckoning. When the doorbell rang, Karen opened it to find not just Emilia, but Lawrence as well. Perfect. She wanted them both here for this. "Karen, sweetheart," Emilia began, her voice dripping with false warmth. "I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding." "Come in," Karen interrupted, stepping aside. Her voice was pleasant, almost friendly. Emilia and Lawrence walked into the living room and stopped dead. 7 women sat in silence, their faces ranging from disgust to fury. "What is this?" Emilia demanded. "Sit down, Emilia." Diane stood, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "I will not be—" "Sit down." Monica's voice was ice. Emilia looked at Lawrence. He wouldn't meet her eyes. She sat slowly, clutching her designer handbag. Karen remained standing. She opened a folder and began laying photos on the coffee table, one by one, each landing with a soft thud that felt like a judgment. Emilia and Thandiwe at lunch. Emilia and Thandiwe shopping. Emilia holding Thandiwe's child. Emilia and Thandiwe at a spa. "These are from your Facebook page," Karen said quietly. "You posted them publicly." Emilia's face drained of color. "Karen, you don't what? Don't understand." Karen picked up a receipt. "Tiffany, 2 bracelets, my credit card. Look." She pointed to a photo. "She's wearing one." "Oh my God," Jessica whispered. "You bought jewelry for the woman sleeping with my husband," Karen continued, her voice eerily calm. "With my money." The room exploded. "How could you—" Diane started. "She visited you in the hospital," Monica shouted. She paid your bills, Ashley added. Stop, Emilia's voice cracked. You don't understand the situation. What situation? Barbara demanded. What possible situation makes this okay? Thandiwe was going through a difficult... Jessica laughed, sharp and bitter. Difficult. She was screwing a married man. You don't understand. Emilia's voice rose. Thandiwe and Lawrence have a real connection. Silence fell like a guillotine. Karen's face went blank. What did you just say? I didn't mean... You think they have a real connection? Karen's voice was dangerously soft. You think his affair is legitimate? That's not what I... That's exactly what you meant. Ashley stood up, shaking. You chose the mistress over the wife. I was trying to help my son be happy. Emilia was crying now. By helping him cheat? Diane's voice shook with rage. You're his mother! I know what it's like, Emilia started. What's like? Monica moved closer. What is it you know, Emilia? To feel... Emilia couldn't finish. To be the other woman, Barbara said quietly. The room went still. Is that what you were going to say? Emilia's silence was deafening. Oh my God, Jessica breathed. You're not just supporting her. You're living through her. That's not... You've done this before, haven't you? Diane's voice was cold. You've been the mistress. That's why you understand Thandiwe so well. My past is not... Your past created this. Monica gestured at Lawrence. You raised him to think this is normal. Lawrence finally spoke, his voice broken. Mum, what are they talking about? Emilia looked at her son, tears streaming. Your father. Don't you dare blame Dad. Lawrence stood. Don't you dare. I'm not blaming anyone, Emilia sobbed. I'm just saying marriages are complicated. Complicated. Karen's voice cut through everything. You want to talk about complicated? I loved you. I called you Mom. I paid your bills. I sat by your bed when you were sick, and you... Her voice broke. You bought gifts for the woman destroying my life, with my money. Karen, I never meant to hurt... Liar! The word ripped from Karen's throat. You posted photos. You wanted everyone to see. You were proud. I thought you'd understand eventually. Understand what? Karen moved closer. That you betrayed me, that you chose a stranger over me, that you... She stopped, looked at Emilia with sudden clarity. You never liked me, did you? You never thought I was good enough. That's not true. It is true, Diane said quietly. I've watched you with my daughter for 12 years. The little comments, the criticisms, the way you never quite accepted her. I accepted her. No, you tolerated her, Barbara interrupted. There's a difference. Ashley pulled out her phone. Look at this. Thandiwe's comments on your posts. She calls you Mom. She calls you Mom, Karen. The words hung in the air like poison. Get out, Karen whispered. Karen, please. Get out, Karen's voice shattered. Get out of my house. Get out of my life. Karen, sweetheart. Emilia reached for her. Don't touch me. Karen stepped back. You lost that right. You lost everything. She's still my mother, Lawrence said weakly. Karen turned on him, her eyes blazing. And you stood there. You watched her befriend your mistress and you did nothing. You let your mother shop with her. You let her... Her voice broke. You're just as bad as she is. I didn't know she was... You knew, Karen screamed. You saw the photos. You saw them together. You knew and you let it happen because it made your affair easier. Lawrence's face crumbled. I never asked her to... You didn't have to ask, Monica shouted. You just had to stop it, but you didn't, because you're a coward. That's enough, Emilia tried to stand. You can't speak to my son. Your son is a cheater. Jessica moved forward. And you made him that way. I did not. You did. Diane's voice was thunder. You taught him that loyalty doesn't matter, that promises are optional, that he can have whatever he wants, no matter who gets hurt. I raised him to be happy. You raised him to be broken, Ashley shouted. The room erupted in overlapping voices, everyone talking at once, accusations flying, Emilia sobbing, Lawrence standing frozen. "Enough!" Karen's voice cut through the chaos. The room fell silent. She walked to Emilia, looked down at the crying woman, and spoke with deadly calm. "I loved you. Past tense. That woman is dead. You killed her when you chose Thandiwe over me. When you posted those photos. When you bought her gifts with my money. When you played grandmother to her children while treating me like I didn't exist. I'm sorry." "No, you're not," Karen said softly. "You're embarrassed. You're facing consequences. But you're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry you got caught." "That's not true." "It is true," Barbara said. "If Karen hadn't found those receipts, you'd still be shopping with that woman today." Emilia couldn't deny it. "Get out," Karen repeated. "Both of you, now." "Karen," Lawrence started. "You had a choice," Karen interrupted. "Last night, I gave you 1 hour, one choice, defend me or defend her. You chose her. You stood there and watched your mother justify everything and you said nothing. So you made your choice. Now live with it." "I didn't choose." "You did," Monica said. "Your silence was a choice. Your hesitation was a choice. And now you get to live with it." Diane stepped forward. "If you ever contact my daughter again, if you ever try to justify this, if you ever show your face near this family, I will destroy you, both of you. Do you understand me?" Emilia nodded, defeated. She gathered her purse with shaking hands. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered to Karen. Karen's laugh was hollow. "That's the saddest part. You did hurt me. Deliberately, repeatedly. You just didn't care, because I was never the daughter-in-law you wanted. I was too strong, too independent, too black." Emilia's face went white. "Race has nothing to do with—" "Get out!" all 7 women shouted in unison. Emilia fled like she was running from fire. Lawrence followed, his shoulders shaking. The door slammed. Silence filled the room like smoke. Then Karen's knees buckled. Monica and Diane caught her, held her up, formed a wall around her breaking heart. "I've got you," Monica whispered. "We've got you," Diane said fiercely. Karen sobbed against her mother's shoulder, great, heaving cries that came from somewhere deep and wounded. "She was supposed to love me." "I know, baby. She was supposed to be on my side." "I know. Why wasn't I enough?" "You were enough." Diane pulled back, gripped Karen's face in her hands. "You were always enough. She was the one who wasn't enough. She was the one who failed. Not you. Never you." Outside, Emilia sat in her car, unable to drive, unable to breathe. Lawrence stood beside the car, his phone ringing. Thandiwe's name flashed on the screen. He declined the call. For the first time since this began, he felt it. Not guilt, not regret. Something deeper, something that sat in his chest like a stone. Shame. Inside the house, Karen wiped her eyes and stood straight. She looked at the women surrounding her, her army, her family, her sisters in strength. "Thank you," she said. "You don't have to thank us," Jessica said. "That's what family does." "What now?" Ashley asked. Karen walked to the window, watched Emilia's car finally pull away, and felt something shift inside her. Not healing, not yet, but the beginning of it. The first breath after drowning. "Now," Karen turned back to face them, her jaw set. "Now I rebuild. Better, stronger, without them. And I never, ever let anyone make me feel small again." Barbara smiled. "There's the warrior." "She was always there," Monica said. "She just needed to remember." Karen looked at her reflection in the window, saw a woman who'd been betrayed, a woman who'd been broken, but also a woman who was still standing. And that woman, she was just getting started. Chapter 3. The Wife Who Played Chess. While they played checkers. Karen didn't cry, didn't yell, didn't beg. She simply started removing Laurence Olivier from every corner of her life with the precision of a surgeon removing cancer. The morning after the confrontation, Karen woke up and made a decision. She wasn't going to waste time mourning what she'd lost. She was going to celebrate what she'd gained, freedom. She started with the bedroom. Everything that belonged to Lawrence went into boxes. His clothes, his books, his cologne, his side of the closet. She worked systematically, without emotion, like she was packing up a stranger's belongings. Monica arrived to help, but Karen barely needed assistance. She'd already planned every move in her head. "Where are you sending all this?" Monica asked, taping up another box. "His mother's house," Karen replied. "He's living there now. Let him explain to her why he needs his entire wardrobe delivered." Next came the photos. Every framed picture of Lawrence came off the walls. Every wedding photo, every vacation snapshot, every captured memory of their marriage was removed and packed away. Karen didn't throw them out. She wasn't that petty. But she wasn't keeping them on display either. She hired an interior designer. Within days, the house began to transform. New paint in the bedroom, a soft sage green instead of the beige Lawrence had insisted on. New bedding in rich purples and golds. New artwork on the walls. The house was becoming hers, not theirs. The locks changed next. Karen called a locksmith and had every lock in the house replaced. When Lawrence tried to come by unannounced later that week, his key didn't work. He stood on the porch ringing the doorbell like a solicitor until Karen opened the door. "What do you want?" she asked coldly. "My key doesn't work," he said stupidly. "That's because I changed the locks. This is my house, Lawrence. You don't live here anymore." "But I still pay the mortgage." "No, you don't," Karen interrupted. "I checked the bank statements. I've been paying the mortgage for the past 8 months. You've been paying for hotel rooms and dinners with Thandiwi, so this is my house, and you need to leave." "Karen, can we please just talk?" "No." She started to close the door. "I made a mistake," he shouted. "I know I hurt you. I know I was wrong, but we can fix this." Karen opened the door fully and looked at him with something close to pity. "Lawrence, you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. Multiple choices. Every time you texted her, every time you met her, every time you let your mother befriend her. Those were all choices. And now you get to live with the consequences." She closed the door. Lawrence stood there for a long moment before finally leaving. Inside, Karen leaned against the door and exhaled slowly. Progress. Her social media transformation came next. Karen had always kept a low profile online, posting occasionally about work events, but never much about her personal life. That changed. She posted a photo of herself at a restaurant with friends, laughing, wineglass in hand. The caption read, "New beginnings taste like freedom." The post exploded. Friends she hadn't heard from in years commented with support. Her client list, Karen was an event planner for high-end corporate functions, saw the post and reached out with work opportunities. Everyone could see she was thriving, not suffering. Lawrence saw the posts too. Each one was a dagger. Karen at an art gallery opening, Karen at a yoga class, Karen at brunch with her sister, Karen living her life without him, without missing him, without needing him. He tried calling, she didn't answer. He tried texting, she blocked him. He tried showing up at her office. Her assistant, a fierce young woman named Tasha, intercepted him in the lobby. "Ms. Shepherd is in a meeting," Tasha said firmly. "I'm her husband." "You're her estranged husband," Tasha corrected, "and she's given explicit instructions that you're not to be allowed upstairs. So unless you want security involved, I suggest you leave." Lawrence left, defeated, humiliated. Exactly how Karen had felt when she discovered his affair. At Emilia's house, Lawrence was drowning in his mother's guilt and his own regret. Emilia couldn't stop crying. Her friends had abandoned her. Her social circle, built carefully over decades, had crumbled overnight. The story of what she'd done had spread through their community like wildfire. A mother-in-law who befriended her son's mistress was the kind of scandal that ended friendships and closed doors. "This is all Karen's fault," Emilia said bitterly one evening. "She turned everyone against us." "No, Mom," Lawrence said quietly. He was sitting at her kitchen table, staring at his phone, looking at another photo Karen had posted. This one showed her at a charity gala. She was the event coordinator, showing her professional success. Lawrence shows up uninvited, hoping to see her. He watches from the crowd as Karen laughs, dances, and is surrounded by admirers. A handsome man named Julian brings her champagne. They look intimate. Lawrence's heart shatters. We did this to ourselves, you and me. We destroyed her and expected her to just accept it. She's being dramatic. She's being strong, Lawrence corrected. Stronger than I ever gave her credit for. Look at her. He turned his phone to show Emilia the photo. Does she look like someone who's falling apart? She's thriving without me. That's what's killing me, Mom. She doesn't need me. She never did. I just convinced myself she did, because it made me feel important. Emilia looked at the photo and felt a stab of something she didn't want to name. Jealousy. Karen looked radiant, free, happy. Everything Emilia wasn't feeling. Thandiwe called me today, Lawrence said quietly. What did she want? Money. She wanted me to take her to some restaurant she saw on Instagram. I told her I couldn't afford it. She laughed and said maybe I should get a better job. He shook his head. Karen never asked me for anything. She made her own money, paid her own bills. She was my partner, not my dependent, and I threw her away for someone who just wants what I can give her. Then end it with Thandiwe, Emilia urged. Go back to Karen, apologize, make this right. It's too late, Lawrence said. Look at her. She's already moved on. I'm not even a ghost in her life anymore. I'm just nothing. Meanwhile, Karen was at home having wine with Monica. They were sitting on her newly redecorated couch, laughing about something that happened at Monica's work. Karen felt lighter than she had in years. You seem happy, Monica observed. I am, Karen said, surprised by her own honesty. I thought losing him would destroy me, but all it did was free me. I've been carrying the weight of his inadequacy for years, covering for him, making excuses, pretending he was a better husband than he was. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. What are you going to do now? I'm going to live, Karen said simply. I'm going to work on projects I'm passionate about, travel to places I want to see, spend time with people who actually value me. I'm going to be selfish for once, and it's going to be glorious. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. She opened it. I'm sorry, I know that doesn't mean anything, but I need you to know I'm sorry. L. Karen showed Monica the text. What should I say? Nothing, Monica advised. Let him sit with his apology. Let him wonder if you even read it. You don't owe him closure. Karen deleted the text without responding. Monica was right. She didn't owe Lawrence anything anymore. That weekend, Karen went dress shopping, not because she had an event to attend, but because she wanted to feel beautiful. She tried on elegant evening gowns, professional suits, casual dresses that made her feel confident. She bought 3 outfits and wore one out of the store. As she was walking to her car, she literally ran into someone coming out of the coffee shop next door. I'm so sorry, the man started, then stopped. Karen? She looked up and felt her heart skip. Julian Reeves. They'd worked together years ago on a corporate event. He'd been kind, funny, professional. She'd had a tiny crush on him back then, though she'd never acted on it because she was married. Julian, hi, I haven't seen you in forever. You look amazing, he said, and there was genuine admiration in his voice. How have you been? They talked for 20 minutes on the sidewalk. He was divorced now, running his own consulting firm. She told him she was separated, working on rebuilding her life. He asked for her number. She gave it to him. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime, he suggested. Catch up properly? I'd like that, Karen said. As she drove home, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Not hope that she'd find someone new, but hope that she was capable of feeling attraction again, capable of connection, capable of moving forward. Lawrence called that evening. For the first time in weeks, Karen answered. Thank you for picking up, he said, relief flooding his voice. What do you want, Lawrence? I just wanted to talk. To hear your voice. I miss you. You miss what I did for you, Karen corrected. You miss having someone who loved you unconditionally, but you don't actually miss me. You don't even know who I am. That's not true. Tell me 3 things about me that have nothing to do with our marriage. 3 things I love, 3 goals I have, 3 things that make me me. Silence. That's what I thought, Karen said quietly. You never really saw me, Lawrence. You saw a wife, a role I played. But you never bothered to know the woman inside that role, and now it's too late. It's not too late. It is, Karen said firmly. I'm not the woman you married anymore. She died the day I found those receipts. I'm someone new now, someone who knows her worth, someone who won't settle for being second best ever again. And that person, she doesn't have room for you in her life. She hung up. Lawrence sat in his mother's guest room, staring at his phone, and finally understood what he'd lost. Not just a wife, not just a marriage, but a woman who would have moved mountains for him. A woman who had loved him with everything she had. A woman he'd taken completely for granted. And now she was gone. Chapter 4. The mistress who wanted everything. Thandiwe Watson learned the hard way that stealing a man is easy. Keeping him when you can't afford his lifestyle is impossible. Thandiwe had thought she'd won. She'd stolen Lawrence from his wife, earned his mother's approval, positioned herself as the woman who understood him better than Karen ever could. She'd painted herself as the victim, the single mother who'd fallen in love with a man trapped in a loveless marriage. Her friends had believed her. Her social media followers had supported her. She'd been so certain that once Karen was out of the picture, she and Lawrence would live happily ever after. Reality, as it turned out, was significantly less romantic. Lawrence was broke. Not actually broke. He still had a job, still earned a decent salary, but compared to the lifestyle he'd been maintaining while married to Karen, he might as well have been destitute. Without Karen's income, without access to their joint accounts, without the house and the equity and the financial stability Karen had built, Lawrence was just an average man with an average income trying to maintain an expensive affair. The expensive dinners stopped. The weekend getaways dried up. The shopping trips that had been so frequent during the affair became non-existent. Thandiwe noticed immediately. I thought we could go to that new place on 5th, Thandiwe suggested one evening. They were at Lawrence's mother's house, where he'd been living since Karen kicked him out. The situation was already embarrassing. Thandiwe had imagined moving into Lawrence's beautiful house with him, playing wife in the home Karen had built. Instead, she was sneaking around like a teenager, hoping Amelia wouldn't walk in on them. I can't afford it, Lawrence said bluntly. Thandiwe blinked. What do you mean you can't afford it? You took me there last month. That was on a credit card, Lawrence admitted, one I don't have access to anymore. Karen was the primary on most of our accounts. She contributed more to the household income. I never really thought about it until she cut you off, Thandiwe finished. Her voice had gone cold. I'm not cut off. I just don't have the same financial flexibility I used to have. So what are you saying? We're eating fast food now. I'm saying we need to be realistic about what I can afford. Thandiwe stood up, grabbing her purse. I didn't leave my marriage for realistic, Lawrence. I left it for better. For more. You promised me you'd take care of me. You promised me a life. I will, Lawrence said desperately. Once the divorce is finalized, once we settle the assets, how long is that going to take? Months? Years? And in the meantime, what? I'm supposed to just wait around while you figure your life out? She left without saying goodbye. Lawrence sat in the empty room, staring at the space she'd occupied, and felt the first real stirring of doubt about what he'd done. The fights became more frequent. Thandiwe wanted things Lawrence couldn't provide, attention he couldn't give while he was drowning in regret and financial stress, a future he was increasingly uncertain he could build. Meanwhile, Karen's social media presence continued to showcase a life of increasing abundance, not material wealth. Karen had never been ostentatious, but richness of experience. Photos of her at art galleries, at wine tastings, at professional conferences where she was clearly respected and valued. and increasingly photos that included other people, friends, colleagues, and yes, occasionally men. Lawrence tortured himself by looking at every post. He recognized some of the men from Karen's work circles. Professional connections, probably. Nothing romantic. But one man appeared more frequently than others. Julian Reeves. Lawrence remembered him vaguely. They'd met at some event years ago. He was tall, successful, well-spoken, everything Lawrence suddenly wasn't. In one photo, Julian had his hand on Karen's lower back as they posed with a group of colleagues at a fundraiser. It was probably innocent, probably professional. But the intimacy of the gesture made Lawrence want to put his fist through a wall. Thandiwe saw the posts too. She'd been monitoring Karen's social media obsessively, waiting for evidence of the broken woman she expected to see. Instead, she saw a woman who looked like she'd won the lottery, a woman who was clearly thriving. "Your wife looks happy," Thandiwe said one evening, her voice dripping with venom. She showed Lawrence a post of Karen at an upscale restaurant, laughing with friends. "She's not my wife anymore," Lawrence said automatically. "She's still legally your wife," Thandiwe corrected. "You haven't filed for divorce. Why is that?" "It's complicated." "It's not complicated. You're stalling. You're hoping she'll take you back." "That's not—" "Don't lie to me," Thandiwe snapped. "I can see it in your face every time her name comes up. You regret leaving her. You regret choosing me." The truth of her words hung in the air between them. Lawrence couldn't deny it. Thandiwe's laugh was bitter. "I gave up everything for you. My marriage, my stability, my reputation, and you're still in love with your wife." "I'm not in love with her." "Yes, you are. You're just too stupid to realize it until it's too late." She grabbed her coat. "I'm done, Lawrence. I'm done being your consolation prize." She left, but unlike before, when she'd stormed out expecting him to chase her, this time Lawrence didn't move. He just sat there, staring at the door, feeling nothing but relief. The next day, Thandiwe posted on social media. It was a long, detailed post about being betrayed by a man who'd promised her the world. She painted herself as the victim, the woman who'd believed a man's lies only to discover he was using her to escape his failing marriage. She didn't name Lawrence directly, but everyone who knew her would know who she was talking about. The post backfired spectacularly. Friends who knew the real story, that Thandiwe had actively pursued a married man, had accepted gifts and dinners funded by his wife's money, had played the other woman for months, came out with their own comments. The truth spread like wildfire. Thandiwe wasn't a victim. She was a willing participant who'd gotten caught and was now trying to rewrite history. Her own children, old enough to understand what their mother had done, were humiliated at school. Her ex-husband filed for full custody, using her affair and her instability as evidence. Her reputation, which she'd tried so hard to protect, crumbled. She blamed Lawrence for everything. Meanwhile, Karen went to a boutique to buy a dress for an upcoming gala. As she was browsing, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Karen?" She turned. Thandiwe stood there, looking smaller than Karen remembered, less polished, less confident. "Thandiwe," Karen said neutrally. "I wanted to say—" Thandiwe started, then stopped. What was there to say? "I'm sorry I slept with your husband. I'm sorry I befriended your mother-in-law. I'm sorry I tried to destroy your life." Karen watched her struggle for words and felt nothing, no anger, no pain, just a distant sort of pity. "You wanted to say you're sorry," Karen finished for her, "but you're not sorry you did it. You're sorry it didn't work out the way you planned." Thandiwe's face flushed. "That's not—" "It is," Karen interrupted gently. "You thought you were upgrading, trading your tired marriage for something exciting and new. You thought Lawrence was a prize worth winning. But the truth is, he was never the prize. The marriage we built was. The partnership, the trust, the stability. You didn't steal my husband, Thandiwe. You stole a man who was already broken, and now you're realizing he was never worth the cost." Thandiwe's eyes filled with tears. He promised me too," Karen said. "In a church, in front of our families, in front of God. His promises aren't worth much. You should have learned that before you staked your life on them." Karen picked up the dress she'd been considering, a stunning emerald green gown, and walked to the register. She paid for it without looking back. Behind her, Thandiwe stood alone in the boutique, surrounded by beautiful things she couldn't afford, and finally understood what Karen had known all along. Some men aren't worth the destruction they cause. Chapter 5. The Man Who Lost His Kingdom. Laurence Olivier finally understood what he'd lost when he saw Karen dancing with another man and realized she'd forgotten he even existed. 3 months had passed since Karen had kicked Laurence out. 3 months of living with his mother, 3 months of avoiding friends who knew what he'd done, 3 months of watching Karen's life flourish on social media while his own crumbled. He'd lost his job. Not officially fired, they'd called it a mutual separation. But everyone knew the truth. The affair had become office gossip. His productivity had plummeted. His reputation was shot. They'd offered him a severance package and a non-disclosure agreement. He'd taken both and left quietly. Now he was sending out resumes, going to interviews and watching potential employers' faces change when they called his previous employer for references. His career, which he'd built carefully over years, was in ruins. Emilia was no comfort. She'd become withdrawn, bitter, spending her days scrolling through social media, looking at photos of her former friends at events she wasn't invited to anymore. Mother and son lived together in quiet desperation, 2 people who'd gambled everything on the wrong choice and lost. Thandiwe had officially ended things. Her final text had been brutal. "You're pathetic. Your wife was right to throw you away. I just wish I'd realized it sooner." Laurence had read that text approximately 100 times, each reading feeling like a knife twist. His therapist, he'd finally started seeing one, had asked him what he thought he'd been looking for in the affair. "Excitement," Laurence had answered. "Something new, an escape from the ordinary." "And did you find it?" the therapist asked. "I found chaos," Laurence admitted. "I destroyed everything stable in my life, chasing something that was never real to begin with." The therapist had nodded. "So what are you going to do now?" That question haunted Laurence. What was he going to do? He couldn't undo what he'd done. He couldn't win Karen back. That ship had sailed, burned, and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. He couldn't resurrect his career or his reputation. He was starting from scratch at an age when starting over felt impossible. Then came the charity gala. It was a major event in their city, one of those black tie affairs that drew the wealthy and powerful. Karen had coordinated it. Her name was on the invitation as the lead event planner. Laurence knew he shouldn't go, knew it would be masochistic, but he bought a ticket anyway, told himself he just wanted to see her work showcased, pretended he wasn't desperately hoping for a glimpse of her. The venue was stunning. Karen had transformed the hotel ballroom into something elegant and intimate, with perfect lighting and floral arrangements that must have cost a fortune. Laurence stood in the crowd, anonymous in his tuxedo, and watched her work the room. Karen looked radiant. Her dress was that emerald green gown he'd seen her buy, the one she'd purchased the same day she'd destroyed Thandiwe with a handful of words. It fit her perfectly, highlighting her curves and her confidence. She moved through the crowd with ease, greeting guests, laughing at jokes, accepting compliments on the event with gracious humility. And then Laurence saw him. Julian Reeves. He appeared at Karen's elbow with 2 champagne flutes, handing her one with the casual intimacy of someone who'd done it 100 times before. She smiled at him. That genuine, warm smile Laurence used to think was reserved just for him. They touched glasses, drank, spoke quietly to each other, heads close together in the noise of the crowd. Then the music started. A live band Karen had hired began playing. Couples moved to the dance floor. Julian extended his hand. Karen took it, and Laurence watched his wife, his beautiful, brilliant, perfect wife, dance with another man. They moved together well, not with the awkwardness of a first dance, but with the ease of people who'd done this before. Julian's hand rested on Karen's waist, her hand on his shoulder. They were talking as they danced, and Karen was laughing, her head thrown back in genuine joy. Laurence felt something break inside him. not his heart. That had broken months ago. This was something deeper. His understanding of reality, maybe. His last shred of hope. He'd been telling himself that Karen was just going through a phase, that she'd heal and come back to him, that they'd find their way back to each other eventually. But watching her now, he understood. She hadn't been healing, she'd been transforming. She'd become someone new, someone better, someone who didn't need him and never would again. After the dance, Julian kissed Karen's cheek. Just a friend's kiss, probably. But the affection in it was clear. They were close. Whether it was romantic or just deep friendship didn't matter. What mattered was that Karen had built a life that didn't include Lawrence. A life full of people who valued her, celebrated her, supported her. Lawrence left the gala before she could see him. He sat in his car in the parking garage and finally, completely broke down. Great, heaving sobs that shook his entire body. He cried for what he'd lost, for what he'd destroyed, for the man he'd failed to be. His phone rang. His mother. He didn't answer. She called again. He let it go to voicemail. She called a third time. Finally, he answered. "What?" His voice was raw. "Where are you? It's late." "I'm at the charity gala," the one Karen organized. Silence. Then, "Why would you do that to yourself?" "Because I'm an idiot, Mom. Because I destroyed the best thing in my life and I needed to see what she built without me. I needed to see her happy. I needed to understand exactly what I lost." "Come home," Amelia said quietly. "Please." "I don't have a home," Lawrence said. "That's the point. I had a home. I had a wife. I had a life. And I burned it all down for nothing." He hung up, sat in the dark car. Eventually, he started the engine and drove back to his mother's house, but not before sitting in that parking garage for another hour, staring at nothing, feeling the weight of his choices pressing down on him like a physical thing. Inside the gala, Karen felt eyes on her. She turned, scanned the crowd, but saw no one she recognized as threatening. Just another successful event, another triumph, another night of proving to herself and everyone else that she was more than just Laurence Olivier's abandoned wife. Julian appeared at her side again. "You okay? You looked worried for a second." "I'm fine," Karen assured him. "Just thought I felt... Never mind, I'm being paranoid." "This event is incredible," Julian said. "You're incredible." Karen smiled at him. They were friends. Good friends. He'd made it clear he was interested in more, but Karen had gently maintained boundaries. She wasn't ready for a relationship. Maybe she never would be. But having someone in her life who saw her, valued her, treated her with respect and genuine affection, it was healing in a way she hadn't expected. "Thank you for being here," she told him. "Wouldn't miss it," he replied. They returned to mingling with guests. Karen didn't know that her husband, her estranged, soon-to-be ex-husband, had been there. Didn't know he'd watched her dance. Didn't know he'd finally, completely realized what he'd lost. And honestly, even if she had known, it wouldn't have changed anything. She'd already moved on. Chapter 6. The Mother-in-Law's Reckoning. Emilia Clarke Olivier discovered that society forgives many sins, but never a mother who betrayed another woman for her son's temporary pleasure. The invitations stopped coming first, then the phone calls, then the casual coffee dates that had filled Emilia's weeks with social connection and purpose. One by one, the women Emilia had considered friends for decades simply vanished from her life. It started with her book club. They'd been meeting monthly for 15 years, rotating between houses, discussing literature and life over wine and cheese. Emilia had hosted them just 6 months ago. Now she received an email, not even a phone call, informing her that the group had decided to restructure and would be continuing with a smaller membership. She wasn't included in the smaller membership. Her church group was next. The women's ministry that met every Wednesday morning suddenly had scheduling conflicts whenever Emilia tried to attend. The coordinator, Susan, who Emilia had known since their children were in elementary school together, finally pulled her aside after service one Sunday. "Emilia, I need to be honest with you. Some of the women are uncomfortable with your presence given..." given what happened with Karen and your involvement with that other woman." "That other woman has a name," Emilia said defensively, "and I was just trying to help." "You were helping your son cheat on his wife," Susan interrupted, her voice sharp. "You were shopping with his mistress while his wife was paying your credit card bills. That's not help, Emilia. That's betrayal. And frankly, a lot of us are wondering what kind of person does something like that." The words hit Emilia like physical blows. "I made a mistake." "You made a choice," Susan corrected. "And now you're dealing with the consequences. I'm sorry, but you're not welcome in the women's ministry anymore." Emilia left the church in tears. She didn't go back. Her sister Rachel was the final straw. Rachel, who'd always been supportive, always been there, called one evening and asked to meet for lunch. Emilia arrived hopeful, desperate for an ally. Rachel was waiting at the restaurant, her face grave. "I can't be seen with you anymore," Rachel said without preamble. "My husband is a partner at his firm. Image matters, and your image right now is toxic." "I'm your sister." "You're a woman who betrayed another woman in the cruelest way possible," Rachel interrupted. "Do you have any idea how the story is being told? You're not the sympathetic figure here, Emilia. You're the villain, the mother-in-law who helped destroy a marriage, who enabled your son's affair, who befriended and financially supported his mistress while his wife was working herself to death to keep your family afloat." "That's not how it was." "That's exactly how it was," Rachel snapped. "I talked to Karen's mother, Diane. Did you know Karen paid for your knee surgery? Did you know she covered your property taxes when you said you were short? Did you know she visited you every week when you were recovering, bringing you meals and medications and sitting with you so you wouldn't be alone?" Emilia had known. She'd just forgotten to be grateful. "And how did you repay her?" Rachel continued. "By playing grandmother to her husband's mistress's children, by taking that woman shopping with Karen's money, by posting photos on Facebook like you were so proud of yourself. You humiliated that girl publicly, Emilia, and now you're paying the price." "Everyone makes mistakes. Not everyone makes that mistake," Rachel said coldly. "I raised my children to be loyal, to honor their commitments, to treat their spouses with respect. Apparently, you raised Lawrence differently, and now both of you are pariahs. I'm sorry, but I can't be associated with that. My reputation matters too much." Rachel left money on the table for her untouched coffee and walked out. Emilia sat alone in the restaurant, surrounded by other diners who probably didn't even know who she was, and felt more isolated than she'd ever felt in her life. That evening, she sat in her living room scrolling through social media. Her friends were still posting, still meeting, still laughing, still living, just without her. She was the ghost at the feast, invisible and irrelevant. She thought about calling Lawrence, but what was the point? He was drowning in his own regrets. She thought about calling Thandiwe, the woman she'd defended, befriended, supported, but Thandiwe had blocked her number weeks ago. She thought about calling Karen, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, but every time she picked up the phone, she remembered the look in Karen's eyes during that confrontation. The cold fury, the complete dismissal. Karen had looked at her like she was nothing, and the truth was, Emilia had earned that look. The doorbell rang. Emilia wasn't expecting anyone. She opened the door to find Diane Patterson, Karen's mother, standing on her porch. "We need to talk," Diane said. Emilia let her in, too shocked to do anything else. Diane didn't sit. She stood in Emilia's living room like a prosecutor about to deliver a verdict. "I came here because I promised myself I'd say this to your face. You destroyed my daughter. You knew Lawrence was cheating, you knew Thandiwe was the other woman, and instead of supporting your daughter-in-law, the woman who'd been nothing but good to you, you chose to support the mistress. Do you understand how depraved that is?" "I thought I was helping Lawrence be happy." "Lawrence was never going to be happy," Diane interrupted, "because happiness doesn't come from betraying the people who love you. It comes from being a person worth loving, and you raised him to believe his happiness was more important than his integrity." Emilia felt tears sliding down her face. I know I made a mistake. Stop calling it a mistake, Diane said sharply. Mistakes are accidents. This was deliberate. You chose Thandiwe over Karen repeatedly. You posted photos with her. You called her family. You made Karen feel like an outsider in her own marriage because you never thought she was good enough for your precious son. That's not true. Isn't it? Diane challenged. Be honest, Emilia. Did you ever really accept Karen? Did you ever treat her like a daughter? Or did you always see her as the black woman who married your white son and didn't quite fit your vision of what your family should look like? The accusation hung in the air. Emilia wanted to deny it, wanted to claim that race had nothing to do with anything. But the truth was more complicated and uglier than she wanted to admit. I never said anything racist. You didn't have to say it, Diane replied. You showed it. Every time you criticized how Karen kept house, every time you made comments about her hair or her family's traditions, every time you suggested Lawrence could do better, Karen felt it, even if she never said anything to you. She felt how you tolerated her but never embraced her, and when Thandiwe came along, when a woman who looked like you showed interest in your son, you saw your chance to replace the daughter-in-law who never quite measured up. I never... Emilia couldn't finish the sentence, because somewhere deep down, she knew Diane was right. You broke that girl's heart, Diane said quietly. Not just Lawrence's affair, that she could have survived, but your betrayal, your mother, who she loved, who she called Mom, choosing her husband's mistress over her, that destroyed something in her that might never fully heal. I'm sorry, Emilia whispered. Don't apologize to me, Diane said. I'm not the one you wronged, but I'll tell you this. Karen is thriving now. She's happy. She's successful. She's surrounded by people who actually value her. And you're sitting alone in this house, abandoned by your friends, estranged from your family, and hated by a community that used to respect you. That's your consequence. Live with it. Diane left without another word. Emilia collapsed on her couch and cried until she had no tears left. Later that night, Lawrence came home to find his mother in the dark living room, staring at nothing. Mom, I ruined everything, Emilia said. Not just your marriage, my entire life, every relationship, every friendship, all gone because I chose wrong, because I was selfish and small and cruel. Lawrence sat beside her. They were both ruins of the people they'd been, two casualties of their own terrible choices. Karen came to see me today, Emilia lied. She didn't tell him it was Karen's mother. The truth was too painful. What did she say? She said, I got exactly what I deserve. Emilia turned to her son. She was right. We both got what we deserve. The question is, what are we going to do now? Lawrence had no answer. They sat together in the dark, two people who destroyed everything good in their lives and were only now beginning to understand the magnitude of what they'd lost. Chapter 7. The unraveling Thandiwe Watson's mask shattered the day she realized the man she'd used had nothing left to give, and neither did she. The text message was simple. We need to talk. Thandiwe stared at it for a long time before responding. She'd been avoiding Lawrence for weeks, ever since their last fight about money, or rather, his lack of it. She'd thought she'd found an upgrade, a man with a stable career, a nice house, social standing. Instead, she'd gotten a man living with his mother, unemployed, and drowning in regret. Her own life was falling apart too. Her ex-husband had filed for full custody of their children, citing her moral instability and destructive behavior patterns. Her lawyer had warned her that she'd likely lose. Courts didn't look kindly on mothers who'd abandoned their marriages for affairs, especially when those affairs had become public scandals. Her friends, the ones who'd supported her through the affair, who'd believed her version of events, had started distancing themselves when the truth came out. When people learned she'd been shopping on Karen's dime, when they discovered she'd been lying about Lawrence being separated when their affair started, when they realized she wasn't a victim but a willing participant in destroying a marriage. She'd lost her job too. Working as a sales representative at a luxury boutique required a certain image. Once her employer learned about the scandal, about the credit card fraud implications, about the negative attention, they'd let her go. "Image is everything in this business," her manager had said, "and yours is damaged beyond repair." So when Lawrence texted asking to meet, Thandiwe agreed, not because she wanted to see him, but because she needed someone to blame for how her life had imploded. They met at a coffee shop far from their neighborhood, where no one would recognize them. Lawrence looked terrible. He'd lost weight. His clothes were rumpled. His eyes had the hollow look of someone who wasn't sleeping well. "You look awful," Thandiwe said instead of hello. "You don't look much better," Lawrence replied. Fair point. Thandiwe hadn't been sleeping either, or eating properly, or taking care of herself in any meaningful way. "Why did you want to meet?" she asked. "To end this properly," Lawrence said. "We've been in limbo for weeks, avoiding each other, pretending this isn't over when we both know it is." "So you called me here to break up with me?" Thandiwe laughed bitterly. "How romantic." "I called you here to be honest," Lawrence corrected. "Something I should have been from the beginning. Thandiwe, I used you. I used you to escape my marriage because I was too cowardly to face my own unhappiness. I made you promises I couldn't keep. I let you believe we had a future when the truth is we were never going to work." "Because you're still in love with your wife," Thandiwe said flatly. "Because I destroyed the only real thing I ever had for something that was never real to begin with," Lawrence replied. "What we had wasn't love. It was an escape, for both of us." Thandiwe wanted to argue, but couldn't. He was right. She'd been using Lawrence too, as proof that she was desirable, that she could have any man she wanted, that she wasn't stuck in a boring marriage with a boring husband. She'd been just as guilty of using the affair as a distraction from her own unhappiness. "So what now?" she asked. "We just walk away, pretend this never happened?" "We can't pretend it didn't happen," Lawrence said. "We destroyed too much. My marriage, your marriage, my mother's reputation, our jobs, our social standing. Everything we touched turned to ash." "Very poetic," Thandiwe said sarcastically. "Does that make you feel better, waxing philosophical about the destruction?" "Nothing makes me feel better," Lawrence said quietly. "But I'm done making it worse. I'm done lying. I'm done pretending. I'm done using other people to avoid facing myself." "So you're dumping me to, what, work on yourself? Find yourself? That's such a cliché." "Maybe," Lawrence agreed, "but it's true. I need to figure out who I am without defining myself through relationships, without using women to feel valuable." Thandiwe felt a surge of anger. "How dare you?" "I'm not saying you did that," Lawrence interrupted. "I'm saying I did. I used Karen to feel secure. Then I used you to feel exciting. I've never just been alone with myself, facing who I really am. And look what that's cost everyone around me." Thandiwe stood abruptly. "I'm not listening to your self-actualization bullshit. You're not some misunderstood soul on a journey. You're just a man who couldn't keep his pants zipped and now has to live with the consequences." "You're right," Lawrence agreed. "That's exactly what I am. And you? You're a woman who thought stealing someone else's husband would make you feel powerful, and now you're realizing it just made you pathetic." The words hung between them like a bomb. Thandiwe's hand flew up. For a moment, Lawrence thought she was going to slap him. Instead, she grabbed her purse. "I hope Karen never takes you back," Thandiwe said viciously. "I hope you spend the rest of your life alone, regretting what you did to her. Because you're right about one thing, she was too good for you. She always was." She left. Lawrence sat alone at the table, staring at his untouched coffee, and felt nothing but relief that it was finally over. But Thandiwe wasn't done. She went home and did something she'd been considering for weeks. She posted a public confession on social media. "I made a terrible mistake. I had an affair with a married man. I convinced myself he was unhappy, that his wife didn't understand him, that we had something special. But the truth is, I was selfish. I saw what I wanted and took it without caring who I hurt. His wife, Karen, was innocent in all of this. She was a good woman who loved her husband and treated his mother with respect and kindness. and I helped destroy her life. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I don't deserve it. I'm just stating facts. If you're reading this and thinking about having an affair, don't. The momentary excitement isn't worth the permanent shame. The post went semi-viral in their community. Some people applauded her honesty. Most condemned her for making it about her own redemption instead of genuine remorse. Lawrence's name was mentioned in the comments. His mother's role was discussed. The entire sordid story was rehashed in painful detail. Karen saw the post. Monica showed it to her over coffee. "What do you think?" Monica asked. Karen read it carefully, then handed the phone back. "I think she's still making it about herself. She's posting this because she wants people to see her as redeemed, not because she actually feels bad about what she did." "Probably true," Monica agreed. "Does it bother you?" "Not really," Karen said honestly. "She's irrelevant to me now. They all are. Lawrence, Thandiwe, Emilia. They're characters in a story I finished reading. I'm on to the next chapter now. Speaking of which," Monica said carefully, "how are things with Julian?" Karen smiled. "Good, really good. He's patient, kind, honest, everything Lawrence wasn't." "Are you falling for him?" Karen considered the question. "I don't know yet. Maybe. But I'm not rushing anything. I'm letting it develop naturally, without expectations. If it becomes something serious, great. If not, I'm happy just having him in my life." "You seem really healthy about all this." "I am," Karen agreed, "because I learned something important from this whole disaster. I don't need a man to complete me. I don't need a relationship to be whole. I'm enough all by myself. Everything else is just bonus." Meanwhile, Lawrence had started genuine therapy, not the half-hearted sessions he'd attended before, but real intensive work on understanding why he'd made the choices he'd made. His therapist had diagnosed him with some underlying issues around self-worth and validation seeking that had nothing to do with Karen and everything to do with how he'd been raised. "Your mother enabled your worst behaviors," the therapist explained. "She taught you that your happiness was more important than your integrity, that you deserved whatever you wanted, regardless of the cost to others. That's not love. That's emotional manipulation." Lawrence was beginning to understand that. Beginning to see how his mother's overprotection and overindulgence had created a man who didn't know how to function in healthy relationships. He thought about calling Karen, about apologizing properly, about trying one more time to explain how wrong he'd been. But his therapist advised against it. "She's moved on," the therapist said gently. "Calling her now would be selfish. It would be about making you feel better, not about honoring her healing process. If you really love her, let her be happy without you." So Lawrence did the hardest thing he'd ever done. He let her go. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. Karen Shepherd had spent 6 months building a new life without Lawrence, and then everything exploded when his secrets came crashing down like an avalanche. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Karen was in her office reviewing proposals for an upcoming corporate event when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Hello? Ms. Shepherd, this is Attorney Mitchell Hayes. I'm calling regarding the estate of Richard Olivier." Karen's brain took a moment to place the name. Richard Olivier, Lawrence's father, the man who'd abandoned his family when Lawrence was young, the ghost that haunted her estranged husband's past. "I'm sorry, why are you calling me?" "Richard Olivier passed away last week. His will included specific instructions regarding his son. There's a letter. Richard insisted it be delivered to both Lawrence and his wife, you specifically, in person. Can we arrange a meeting?" Karen's first instinct was to refuse. She wanted nothing to do with Lawrence's family drama. But curiosity won. "When?" They met at the lawyer's office. Lawrence was already there when Karen arrived, looking shocked to see her. "Karen." "Don't," she said simply. "Let's just get this over with." The lawyer handed them each an envelope, identical except for the names on the front. "He wrote these shortly before his death. He was quite specific about wanting you both to read them together." Karen opened hers. The letter was handwritten, shaky, clearly written by someone very ill. "Dear Karen, You don't know me, but I know about you. I've been watching my son's life from a distance for years, even though he doesn't know it. I've seen his marriage to you. I've seen the kind of woman you are. Strong, capable, loyal. Everything my son didn't deserve because I didn't teach him how to deserve it. I'm dying now. Cancer. And I need you to know the truth about why I left, because it explains everything about the man you married. Emilia had an affair. Multiple affairs, actually. When Lawrence was young, I discovered she'd been cheating for years. The man she was sleeping with was my best friend. When I confronted her, she didn't apologize. She blamed me, said I was boring, distant, that she deserved more excitement. I left because I couldn't forgive her. But I didn't just leave her, I left my son too. That was my mistake, my unforgivable mistake. I abandoned Lawrence when he needed me most because I couldn't bear to look at Emilia's face anymore. Emilia raised him alone, and she raised him to be exactly like her, entitled, selfish, unable to see beyond their own desires. She taught him that his happiness mattered more than his commitments, that loyalty was optional, that people were disposable. I'm writing this because I need you to understand. Lawrence's betrayal of you was inevitable. It was programmed into him by his mother's example and my abandonment. He never learned how to be faithful because neither of his parents modeled fidelity. But here's what I need you to know. You deserved better than my son. You deserved a man who understood what he had in you. And I'm sorry, truly sorry, that my failures as a father created the man who hurt you. Don't take him back, Karen. He'll only hurt you again, not because he's malicious, but because he's broken in ways that can't be fixed. I'm sorry you got caught in our family's cycle of destruction. Richard Olivier. Karen finished reading and looked up. Lawrence was crying, his letter clutched in his hands. What did yours say? She asked quietly. He told me everything, Lawrence whispered. About Mom's affairs, about why he really left, about how I became just like her, a cheater who destroys everything good in pursuit of temporary excitement. Karen felt something crack open inside her. Not sympathy for Lawrence, she was beyond that, but a deep, wounding understanding of how damaged their marriage had been from the beginning. Your mother knew, Karen said. It wasn't a question. She knew, Lawrence confirmed. She knew I was having an affair and she encouraged it. She befriended Thandiwe because she saw herself in the situation. She was the mistress in her own marriage. Supporting Thandiwe was like supporting herself, validating her own choices. Karen stood abruptly. I need to leave. Karen, please. No, she said firmly. I came here because a dead man asked me to read his letter. I've read it. Now I'm leaving. She walked out, got in her car, drove to Monica's house. Her sister took one look at her face and pulled her inside. What happened? Karen told her everything about the letter, about Richard's revelations, about understanding finally just how deep the dysfunction ran in Lawrence's family. It doesn't excuse what he did, Monica said firmly. I know, Karen agreed, but it explains it. And somehow that makes it worse, because I spent a year trying to be enough for a man who was genetically and environmentally programmed to betray me. I never had a chance. That's not true. It is, Karen interrupted. His father abandoned him. His mother taught him that cheating was acceptable. He never learned what real love looked like. How could he have given me something he'd never experienced himself? You're not making excuses for him, Monica said carefully. Are you? No, Karen said. I'm just, understanding him, finally, and understanding that he and I were doomed from the start. That evening, Karen was at home when her doorbell rang. She looked through the peephole and saw Emilia standing on her porch. Karen opened the door. What do you want? I need to tell you the truth, Emilia said. She looked terrible, older, worn down, defeated. Not the truth Lawrence learned today, the whole truth. Karen almost closed the door, but something in Emilia's face stopped her. You have 5 minutes. They sat in Karen's living room, the room Karen had redecorated that no longer held any trace of Lawrence. Richard's letter was accurate, Emilia began, but it wasn't complete. Yes, I had affairs. Yes, I was unfaithful. But what he didn't tell you was why. Richard was abusive, not physically, emotionally. He belittled me constantly, criticized everything I did, made me feel worthless, so I sought validation elsewhere. That doesn't excuse. I'm not asking for excuses, Amelia interrupted. I'm explaining context. Richard wasn't the saint that letter made him sound like. He was broken too, and I was broken, and we broke our son between us. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to understand something, Amelia said. When I befriended Thandiwe, when I supported her, it wasn't about you. It was never about you not being good enough. You were always too good, too strong, too independent. You reminded me of everything I wasn't, and I resented you for it. So you tried to destroy my marriage because you were jealous of me. Karen's voice was cold. Yes, Amelia admitted, and because supporting Thandiwe let me relive my own affairs through her. Let me pretend that cheating was justified, that I wasn't the villain in my own story. You were the villain, Karen said flatly. You are the villain. You destroyed your marriage and your son's marriage, and you're sitting here trying to get me to pity you because you had a hard life. I don't care. Everyone has pain. Not everyone uses it as an excuse to hurt innocent people. Amelia nodded slowly. You're right. I just wanted you to know, I'm sorry, genuinely sorry. Not because I'm facing consequences, but because I finally understand what I did to you. You didn't deserve any of this. No, I didn't, Karen agreed. Now leave my house and don't come back. Amelia left. Karen locked the door behind her and leaned against it, feeling the weight of everything she'd learned today pressing down on her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Julian. Dinner tomorrow? I miss your face. Karen smiled despite everything. She typed back, I'd love that, but can we make it a long dinner? I have a lot to tell you. As long as you want. I'm here for all of it. Karen looked around her beautiful, peaceful home. Tomorrow she had dinner with a good man who respected her. Next week she had a major event to coordinate. Next month she was taking a trip to visit her cousin in another state. Her life was full, rich, meaningful. Lawrence and Amelia and all their dysfunction. They were just footnotes now. Painful ones, but still just footnotes. She'd survived, and more than that, she'd thrived. Chapter 9. The Woman Who Rose. Karen Shepherd woke up on a Tuesday morning and realized she hadn't thought about Laurence Olivier in 3 entire days, and that's when she knew she'd finally won. 2 months had passed since the revelation about Richard's letter. 2 months since Karen had understood, finally and completely, that her marriage had been doomed from the beginning. That knowledge had been painful, but it had also been liberating. She'd stopped questioning what she could have done differently. She'd stopped wondering if she'd been enough. She'd accepted that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you can't fix what was broken before you even arrived. Her business was thriving. Word had spread about the charity gala she'd coordinated, and suddenly she had more clients than she could handle. She'd hired an assistant, a brilliant young woman named Maya, who handled details with precision. Karen was making more money than she ever had while married, proving what she'd always known. She didn't need Lawrence's income. She'd been fine on her own all along. Julian had become a fixture in her life. They'd been dating officially for a month, taking things slow, building a foundation based on friendship and genuine respect. He made her laugh. He listened when she talked. He showed up when he said he would. All the things Lawrence had failed to do consistently. Are you happy? Monica asked one evening over wine. I am, Karen said, surprised by how true it was. I'm actually genuinely happy. I didn't think I'd get here. I thought the betrayal would break something in me permanently, but it didn't. It just made me stronger. What about Lawrence? Do you ever wonder what he's doing? Not really, Karen admitted. I heard he's working again, some consulting job, and I'm glad for him, I guess. I don't wish him harm. I just don't wish him anything at all. He's irrelevant to me now. That weekend, Karen attended a mutual friend's wedding. She'd debated whether to go, knowing Lawrence might be there, but decided she wouldn't let him control her choices anymore. If he was there, fine. If not, fine. Either way, she was going to celebrate her friend's happiness. She arrived at the venue looking stunning in a navy blue dress that hugged her curves perfectly. Julian was her +1, handsome in his suit, attentive without being overbearing. The ceremony was beautiful, the reception was elegant. Karen mingled with friends, laughed, danced, and felt completely at peace. Then she saw him. Lawrence was there, alone, standing by the bar. He looked different. Better, actually. He'd gained back the weight he'd lost, looked healthier, more put together. Their eyes met across the room. Karen felt nothing, no anger, no pain, no longing. Just a mild curiosity about how someone she'd spent years of her life with could feel like such a stranger now. Lawrence made his way over to her during a moment when Julian was getting them drinks. "Karen," he said quietly, "you look beautiful." "Thank you," she replied politely, as she would to any acquaintance. "I heard your business is doing really well. I'm happy for you." "Thank you," she repeated. This was surreal, making small talk with her estranged husband like they were old co-workers running into each other at a conference. "I want you to know," Lawrence continued, "I've been working on myself. Therapy, real work on understanding why I did what I did. I'm not the same person I was." "That's good," Karen said. "I'm glad you're getting help." "I'm not telling you this because I expect anything from you," Lawrence said quickly. "I just wanted you to know that losing you was the worst thing that ever happened to me. But it was also the wake-up call I needed. You deserved so much better than who I was, and I'm sorry I couldn't be that person while we were together." Karen looked at him, really looked at him, and saw someone who did seem genuinely different. More humble, more aware, more human. "I appreciate you saying that," she said, "and I mean it. I'm glad you're finding your way to being better. But Lawrence, that doesn't change anything between us. We're done. We've been done. And I've moved on." "I know," Lawrence said. "I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that you were always enough. More than enough. The problem was never you. It was always me." Julian returned with drinks. Lawrence nodded politely at him, then walked away without another word. "Was that him?" Julian asked quietly. "That was him," Karen confirmed. "Are you okay?" "I'm perfect," Karen said honestly. "That was closure I didn't even know I needed. I saw him and felt nothing. No residual love, no lingering anger, just peace, just done." Julian kissed her forehead. "Good. You deserve peace." The rest of the evening was wonderful. Karen danced with Julian, laughed with friends, caught the bouquet, and joked about what that might mean. Life felt light, hopeful, full of possibility. As the reception wound down, Karen stepped outside for some air. The night was clear, stars visible despite the city lights. She thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, devastated, betrayed, unsure if she'd survive the pain, and she thought about who she was now, confident, successful, open to love, but not desperate for it. She heard footsteps behind her, turned, expecting Julian, found Lawrence instead. He was crying, not dramatically, just quiet tears sliding down his face. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'll leave. I watched you tonight, dancing, laughing, happy, and I realized I'm looking at the future I could have had if I'd been a better man. I'm looking at the life I destroyed." Karen felt something twist in her chest. Not love. Not sympathy exactly. Just recognition of genuine remorse. "Lawrence, I need you to hear this," she said gently. "I forgive you. I genuinely do. Not because what you did was okay, it wasn't, but because holding on to anger was poisoning me, so I'm letting it go. I'm letting you go. I don't deserve your forgiveness." "It's not about what you deserve," Karen interrupted. "It's about what I need, and I need to be free of this, free of you, free of what happened. So I'm choosing to forgive you, but that doesn't mean I'm choosing to let you back into my life." "I understand," Lawrence whispered. "I just want you to know, you were the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm so sorry I didn't realize it until I'd already lost you." He walked away then, back into the reception. Karen watched him go and felt the last chain of their shared history break and fall away. Julian appeared at her side. "You good?" "I'm free," Karen said. "Finally, completely free." They left the wedding together, drove back to Karen's place, sat on her couch with wine, and just talked about everything and nothing. Julian told her about his day, his family, his dreams. She shared hers. They kissed. It was sweet and warm and held promise without pressure. When he left later that night, Karen stood in her doorway watching him drive away, and she smiled. This was what healthy looked like, what respect felt like, what being valued meant. She closed the door, locked it, and walked through her beautiful home. Every room reflected who she was now, strong, independent, at peace. She'd risen from the ashes of her marriage like a phoenix, and she was flying higher than she ever had before. Lawrence sat in his car in the venue parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel, understanding finally and irrevocably that he'd lost the love of his life and there was no getting her back. But Karen went to bed that night wrapped in peace, dreaming of a future that was hers alone to create. She'd won. Not by getting revenge, not by making Lawrence suffer, but by becoming so completely herself that his absence no longer mattered. She was free, and freedom, she'd learned, was the greatest victory of all. The woman who'd once cried herself to sleep wondering why she wasn't enough had become the woman who knew she was more than enough, with or without anyone's validation. Chapter 10. Tough Reunion. Karen Shepherd wasn't looking for Laurence Olivier when she found him. She was looking for closure, and what she found instead was something she never expected. A man who'd finally become worthy of the woman he'd lost. 4 months had passed since the wedding. 4 months of Karen living her best life, building her business, deepening her relationship with Julian. They'd talked about moving in together, about a future. Nothing was set in stone, but the possibility was there, warm and real and uncomplicated. Karen had started therapy herself, not because she was broken, but because she wanted to understand why she'd stayed in a dysfunctional marriage so long, why she'd ignored warning signs, why she'd convinced herself that love meant sacrificing her own needs. Her therapist, Dr. Williams, was brilliant, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who called out Karen's people-pleasing tendencies without judgment. "You're a caretaker," Dr. Williams explained. "You find value in being needed. That made you vulnerable to someone like Lawrence, who needed fixing. But here's what you're learning now. Being needed isn't the same as being valued." Karen absorbed these lessons, applied them to her life, started setting boundaries with everyone, clients, friends, family, started saying no without guilt, started prioritizing her own well-being. So when she walked into Dr. Williams's office one afternoon and saw Lawrence in the waiting room, her first thought was, "This is my space. He doesn't belong here." Lawrence looked up, shocked. "Karen, what are you doing here?" Her voice wasn't hostile, just confused. "I've been seeing Dr. Reynolds. He shares this office suite." Lawrence gestured to the door next to Dr. Williams' office. "I didn't know you were seeing someone here too." They stood in awkward silence. Karen's appointment wasn't for another 10 minutes. Lawrence's session had apparently just ended. "Can we talk?" Lawrence asked. "Just for a minute?" Karen's instinct was to say no. But something in his face stopped her. He looked different, not just physically, though he looked healthier. But there was something in his eyes, a clarity that hadn't been there before. 5 minutes, she agreed, in the lobby downstairs. They took the elevator down in silence, found a quiet corner of the building's lobby, sat in chairs facing each other. "I didn't plan this," Lawrence said, "running into you. But maybe it's meant to happen." "I don't believe in meant to be anymore," Karen said. "I believe in choices." "What do you want, Lawrence?" "I want to tell you that I've changed, really changed. Not because I'm trying to win you back, but because I finally did the work of becoming the man I should have been all along." Karen waited, listening. "I've been in intensive therapy for months," Lawrence continued, "working through my childhood trauma, understanding how my parents' dysfunction programmed me to sabotage relationships, learning about attachment styles and self-worth, and how to be alone without feeling worthless." "That's good," Karen said. "I'm glad you're doing that work." "I'm also volunteering," Lawrence said, "at a crisis center for men dealing with relationship issues, helping guys understand what they're about to destroy before they destroy it, trying to save other marriages because I couldn't save my own." Karen was surprised. That's really good work." "I'm not the man who cheated on you anymore," Lawrence said quietly. "I've spent every day for the past 6 months becoming someone different, someone better, someone who might actually deserve a woman like you." "Lawrence, I'm not asking you to take me back," he interrupted. "I know I don't have that right. I just needed you to know that losing you transformed me. You were the catalyst for me becoming a better human being." Karen studied him, saw genuine change in his eyes, saw humility where arrogance used to live, saw self-awareness where entitlement had been. "I believe you've changed," she said slowly, "and I'm happy for you. But that doesn't change the past. It doesn't undo what you did." "I know," Lawrence said. "I'm not asking you to forget. I'm just asking you to know that your pain wasn't wasted, that it led to something meaningful, even if that something meaningful is just me finally becoming who I should have been." They sat in silence for a long moment. "I'm dating someone," Karen finally said. "Someone good. Someone who treats me the way I deserve to be treated." "I'm glad," Lawrence said, and he meant it. "You deserve all the happiness in the world." Karen stood. "I need to go to my appointment." Lawrence stood too. "Thank you for talking to me, for listening. I don't expect to see you again, but if I do, I hope you know I'll always wish you well." Karen walked away, got in the elevator, rode back up to Dr. Williams' office, spent her entire session talking about the unexpected encounter. "How do you feel?" Dr. Williams asked. "Confused," Karen admitted. "I saw him and felt nothing negative. No anger, no pain. But I also didn't feel the pull to reconnect. I'm genuinely happy with Julian. My life is good. I don't need Lawrence in it. But I saw that he'd changed, really changed, and part of me wonders if the man he is now could have been the man I needed then." "That's a dangerous thought," Dr. Williams warned. "You can't live in the hypothetical. You can only deal with what is." Karen knew she was right. Over the next few days, she tried to forget about running into Lawrence, tried to focus on her life with Julian, her thriving business, her growing peace, but something nagged at her. Not longing for Lawrence, she genuinely didn't want him back, but something about unfinished business, about needing one final conversation to truly close that chapter. 3 days later, she called him. "Lawrence, it's Karen. Can we meet for coffee? Just to talk?" They met at a neutral cafe far from both their homes, ordered drinks, sat across from each other with the weight of their shared history between them. "I've been thinking about what you said," Karen began, "about how you've changed. And I believe you. I saw it in your eyes. You're different now." "Thank you," Lawrence said quietly. "But here's what I need you to understand," Karen continued. "The man you are now, he's too late for me. I don't mean that cruelly. I mean that literally. I've moved on. I've built a life without you. And that life is good, really good, better than anything we had together." "I know," Lawrence said, "and I'm happy for you. But I also need to say this," Karen continued. "I forgive you, completely and finally. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace, and forgiveness is how I get that." Tears welled in Lawrence's eyes. "Thank you." "I also need to thank you," Karen said, surprising herself. "Thank me. For being such a terrible husband that I finally learned to value myself," Karen explained. "For hurting me so badly that I had no choice but to become stronger. for destroying our marriage so completely that I had to rebuild myself from scratch. You gave me the greatest gift by leaving. You gave me back myself." Lawrence nodded, unable to speak. "So this is goodbye," Karen said. "Final goodbye. I hope you continue your healing. I hope you find happiness. I hope you build a good life. But that life won't include me. Do you understand?" "I understand," Lawrence whispered. They finished their coffee in companionable silence. When they parted in the parking lot, they hugged, briefly, without lingering, and went their separate ways. Karen drove to Julian's house, found him in his home office, working. He looked up when she entered, smiled that warm smile that made her feel safe. "Hey, you okay?" "I just had coffee with Lawrence," Karen said. "Final coffee. Closure coffee." Julian stood, came to her, took her hands. "How do you feel?" "Free," Karen said simply. "I saw him, I forgave him, and I said goodbye, for real this time. And now I'm here with you, choosing this, choosing us, choosing the future instead of the past." Julian kissed her gently. "I'm glad you got your closure." "Me too." Karen pulled back, looked into his eyes. "I want to be clear about something. I'm not with you because Lawrence broke me and you're fixing me. I'm with you because you're wonderful and kind and real, because we build each other up, because this feels healthy and right." "I know," Julian said. "You're not broken, Karen. You never were. You're just finally with someone who sees your value." That evening, Karen lay in bed thinking about the past year, about the devastation of discovery, about the rage of betrayal, about the slow, painful climb back to herself, about learning to be alone, about opening up to love again, about forgiveness without reconciliation, about moving forward without looking back. She thought about Lawrence, the man he'd been, the man he'd become. She genuinely hoped he found peace, found someone who could love the man he was now, but that someone wasn't her, could never be her again. Too much had broken, and even though forgiveness had mended her heart, some bridges burned can't be rebuilt, shouldn't be rebuilt. She'd loved him once, but she loved herself more now, and that was enough. That was everything. She picked up her phone and texted Julian. "Thank you for being patient with me, for letting me heal at my own pace, for being the man I didn't know I needed." His response came immediately. "Thank you for letting me be part of your story. The best chapters are still ahead." Karen smiled. He was right. The best chapters were ahead. Chapters she'd write herself, on her own terms, with people who actually deserved to be in them. She fell asleep not thinking about what she'd lost, but about everything she'd gained, the strength, the wisdom, the unshakable knowledge of her own worth. Lawrence had taken so much from her, but in the end, he'd given her something invaluable, the gift of knowing she could survive anything, the gift of knowing she was enough all by herself, and that gift, that was worth more than any marriage ever could be. The end.